They remarked on my fortune in being allowed to sleep in my own home, the house my husband and I acquired 43 years ago. It is the house where I raised 3 children, mourned my husband, and endured more heartbreak than any individual should have to face. My name is Patricia, and I am 71 years old. Before I share my journey to reclaim what was taken from me, I would like to know where you are viewing this from. Please share your city in the comments. I need to know that I am not alone in this experience. Somewhere out there, someone understands the feeling of becoming invisible in one's own life. This all began 18 months after Carl passed away. For those 18 months, I found myself wandering through our 4-bedroom colonial in Charleston, South Carolina, trying to navigate widowhood instead of wifedom. My daughter Jessica referred to her actions as an intervention. She insisted I could not manage the house alone, too many stairs, too much yard work, too much of everything for someone my age. "Mom, be reasonable," she said, sitting at my kitchen table as if she owned it. Her husband Derek nodded in agreement like a dashboard bobblehead. They claimed they were trying to help me. That word, help, became a weapon they wielded to justify everything that followed. They moved in temporarily, or so they said, until they found a larger place. Jessica explained that they had 2 teenagers, Brandon and Kylie, who immediately treated my home like a college dorm. Wet towels on antique furniture, shoes on the sofa, and music thumping through walls that had only known the gentle sounds of jazz and laughter. I reassured myself that it was fine. Family supports family. That's what Carl would have wanted. However, what was meant to be temporary soon became permanent. Months turned into a year, and they ceased looking for houses. They stopped pretending this was anything but a takeover. When I confronted Jessica about it, she explained, "We're saving for a down payment." Yet I noticed new cars in my driveway, designer bags, and expensive dinners out. They were not saving. They were living rent-free in a house valued at $750,000. The disrespect began subtly, with Derek using my formal dining room as his home office, papers and coffee cups scattered across the mahogany table that Carl and I had saved 3 years to purchase. Jessica rearranged the kitchen, placing items where they actually make sense. Then it escalated. One Friday, Jessica asked, "Could you maybe eat dinner in your room tonight? We're having people over, and it's just easier." My room in my house. I was being erased, one small indignity at a time. The final straw came on a Tuesday morning in March. After preparing breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, as I had for my family for 50 years, Derek walked in, glanced at my offering, and remarked, "Jesus Christ, Patricia, we're trying to eat healthy. Can you not push your old person food on us?" He didn't say "Mom," nor did he even offer a thank you. In that moment, I felt like a guest in my own home. That's when Jessica delivered the statement that changed everything. "Dad, she's right. Honestly, Mom, you should be grateful. You're lucky we even let you sleep here." I stood at the sink, dish soap dripping from my hands, and something within me crystallized. Not anger, which is impulsive, but a cold clarity that comes when you finally confront the truth you've been avoiding. This was my house, the one Carl and I purchased in 1982 for $89,000, the house we had filled with our lives. Carl refinished every floor, and I painted every wall, some multiple times. We replaced the roof after Hurricane Hugo in '89 and paid off the mortgage early by living frugally for 15 years. Now my daughter, the girl I had nurtured through colic and heartbreak, was suggesting I should be grateful for permission to sleep under my own roof. I didn't respond. Instead, I dried my hands, hung up the towel, and walked to my bedroom, the smallest one, as they had claimed the master suite 6 months prior. "The stairs to our old room are too much for you," Jessica had said. Never mind that their old room had been the master bedroom. My bedroom was where Carl died, holding my hand. I closed the door and sat on the edge of my bed, the bed from our first apartment, which we had somehow kept through 6 moves and 4 decades. My hands trembled, not from weakness but from something else entirely. Here's what they didn't realize. I was not a confused old woman who had lost track of her life. I had spent 40 years as an office manager at a law firm. I knew contracts, I understood property law, and I was well aware of what needed to be done and how to do it quietly. Carl was the gentle one, always seeing the best in people. But I was the meticulous one, the one who read every document before signing. I was the one who maintained an extensive filing system that the partners at Morrison and Bradshaw still discussed. And I was the one whose name, only my name, was on the deed to this house. That afternoon, while Jessica and Derek were at work and the children were at school, I went to my filing cabinet, which they had shoved into a corner of the garage beneath old Christmas decorations and a broken tennis racket. Inside a folder labeled Property Documents, I found everything I needed: the deed recorded in 1982. Carl and I had owned it jointly until his passing, and it had passed entirely to me. I had never added Jessica's name or anyone else's. I made copies of everything, then made copies of the copies. Next, I opened my laptop, the one they assumed I could barely operate, and began making phone calls. My first call was to Robert Morrison, now retired but still sharp. "Patricia," he said warmly, "how are you holding up?" I replied, "I need your help, and I require complete confidentiality." After a pause, he said, "Tell me everything," and I did. Robert listened attentively. When I finished, he remained silent for a long moment before asking, "Are you absolutely certain this is what you want to do? Because once you initiate this process, there's no turning back." I had never been more certain of anything in my life. "All right then," he said. "Let's ensure we do this by the book. Every detail matters." Over the following week, Robert guided me through the process. We met at his home, where his wife Martha prepared tea and left us alone for privacy. Robert's dining room table became our command center. "First," he said while spreading out documents, "we need to understand what rights they have. They're living there without a lease, which makes them tenants at will in South Carolina. You'll need to provide proper notice, 30 days in writing." I expressed my concern they would fight it. "Let them," he replied. "You own the property free and clear. They have no legal claim." He pulled out a yellow legal pad. "But we will be smarter than just eviction. We'll make this airtight. Here's what they've done over the past year, thinking I wouldn't notice. They switched the utilities into my name but stopped contributing to the bills. My electric bill had tripled with 4 extra people in the house, and my water bill had doubled. They promised to manage it but never did. Derek registered his business at my address, some consulting LLC generating mail I was not supposed to open. "Privacy, Mom," he insisted when I inquired about it. Jessica routed some of her bills to my house, including a credit card I had accidentally opened once. She sweetly claimed it was just temporary until we updated our address. They had accumulated parking tickets in Charleston using my address. They even listed Jessica as an authorized resident on documents with the HOA, implying she had some ownership stake. They were establishing residency and creating paper trails that made them appear as co-owners. Robert explained, "It's not illegal exactly, but it's strategic. If this went to court, they could argue they believed they had rights to the property, but they don't." I nodded. "Correct. However, perception matters, Patricia. We're going to create our own paper trail, one that's ironclad." We worked diligently, documenting everything. Robert drafted an official notice to vacate, citing my need to sell the property for health and financial reasons. We prepared a complete accounting of all utilities they had used and documented every conversation I could recall and every promise they had broken. "Now," Robert said, pulling out another folder, "let's discuss the sale. You mentioned you wanted to sell the house." I affirmed, "I do. I can't stay there anymore, even after they leave. It feels tainted now." He nodded. "I have a client looking in your neighborhood, a commercial developer. He would likely pay cash for a quick sale." I inquired about the timeline. "If you're serious, 30 days, maybe less." I looked him in the eye. "I'm serious." "Then we'll time this perfectly. The notice to vacate, the sale, all of it." He smiled, a rare sight. "They won't know what hit them." The hardest part was maintaining normalcy. Each morning, I brewed coffee and smiled when Jessica came downstairs. Each evening, I endured dinner while Derek explained the news to me, as if I hadn't been reading newspapers since before he was born. Each night, I listened to Brandon's music thumping through my ceiling and bit my tongue. Yet, I was documenting everything. I began carrying a small notebook. When Derek left his wet gym clothes on my antique set, I documented it with a photo. When Kylie borrowed my car without asking and returned it with an empty gas tank, I documented that too. When Jessica took $200 from my purse for groceries and I later discovered designer candles from an expensive boutique, I documented that as well. I also started to be more visible around the house, not confrontational, just present. I wanted witnesses to my own displacement. My neighbor, Helen, noticed. While we were gardening one Saturday, she remarked, "Patricia, honey, are you all right? You seem different lately." "Different how?" I asked. "Quieter, like you're walking on eggshells in your own home." I straightened up, my knees protesting. "Helen, if something were to happen, if I needed you to recall conversations or observations, would you be willing to assist me?" Her gaze sharpened. Helen was 75 and astute. "What's going on?" I explained. "Not everything, but enough." After a moment of silence, she nodded. "I've been watching. I've seen how they treat you, as if you're in their way." She paused. "Whatever you're planning, I'm on your side. I may need you to provide a statement about what you've observed. Just say when." I embraced her, something I hadn't done in months. It felt good to have an ally. The commercial developer, James Chen, came to view the property on a Tuesday morning. I arranged it knowing everyone would be out. He was younger than I expected, perhaps 45, with an efficient demeanor I appreciated. "Mrs. Brennan, I'll be direct. This location is ideal for what my client has in mind: mixed-use development. The neighborhood zoning is changing." He toured the house, taking notes. "I can offer you $825,000 cash, closing in 3 weeks. $825,000, $75,000 more than market value." "Why so much?" I inquired. "Speed and certainty. My client needs this property, and you're motivated to sell quickly. It's worth it to both of us." He extended his hand. "Do we have a deal?" I reflected on Carl, on the life we had built there, and on the fact that this house had already been taken from me in every significant way. "We have a deal," I replied. That afternoon, I signed the papers. The closing was set for April 15th, 33 days away. Robert had timed the eviction notice to expire on April 12th. They would have 3 days after the eviction notice expired to vacate before the new owner took possession, Robert explained. However, they would remain unaware of the sale. The notice would appear as if I were merely reclaiming my space. If they refused to leave, things would become interesting. I served the eviction notice on March 13th, exactly 30 days before April 12th. I did it myself, with Helen and Robert present as witnesses. I entered the living room, where Jessica was scrolling through her phone, and Derek was watching a basketball game on my television. "I need you to read this," I said, handing Jessica the envelope. She didn't even look up. "What is it?" "It's a formal notice to vacate the property. You have 30 days. That command captured their attention. Derek muted the TV, and Jessica's head snapped up. "What are you talking about?" she asked sharply. "I'm asking you to leave. You said this was temporary. It's been over a year. It's time." Derek stood up. "You can't just kick us out. We have rights." "Actually, you don't," I replied calmly. "You're not on the lease because there is no lease. You're not on the deed. This is my house, and I'm providing you with legal notice to vacate within 30 days. Jessica opened the envelope, her hands trembling, whether from anger or shock, I couldn't discern. She read it, her complexion shifting from pale to red. "Are you insane? Where are we supposed to go?" "That's not my concern. You're both employed adults. You'll figure it out." "Mom, this is crazy. You can't live here alone. You need us." "No, Jessica, I don't need you. You need me. You need my house, my utilities, and my free rent, but I'm done." Derek stepped forward, and Robert subtly positioned himself between us. "You're making a huge mistake, Patricia. We're family." "Family doesn't tell me I'm lucky to sleep in my own house," I retorted. Jessica's eyes widened as she recalled her previous comment. "I didn't mean it." "Yes, you did. You meant every word." I turned to leave and then paused. "Robert is my attorney. All communication goes through him now. You have 30 days. The following 3 weeks were tumultuous. They attempted everything. First came the apologies. Jessica crying, claiming she had been stressed and hadn't meant it. Derek promised they would pay rent, contribute more, and respect my space. "It's too late," I told them. Then came the anger. Doors slamming, Derek shouting about how ungrateful I was after everything they had done for me. Jessica labeled me vindictive and cruel. I documented every outburst. Next, they resorted to manipulation involving the children. Brandon and Kylie suddenly became sweet and helpful, asking if they had done something wrong. "We love you, Grandma," Kylie said, tears in her eyes. That hurt, but I recognized it wasn't their idea. "This isn't about you," I replied. "This is about your parents' choices." They attempted to involve my other children. My son, Michael, called from Denver, confused. "Mom, Jess says you're kicking them out. What's going on?" I calmly explained everything. After a lengthy silence, he said, "Jesus, Mom, I had no idea it was that bad. Do you need help, money, a place to stay?" "I'm fine, honey, but thank you for asking." My youngest, Sarah, called next. She was less diplomatic. "I told Jess this was a bad idea from the start. She never listens. At least I had 2 out of 3. As the deadline approached, I began making final preparations, things they couldn't see or anticipate. I had opened a new bank account at a different institution and transferred most of my funds there, keeping the old account active with just enough to avoid suspicion. I changed my mailing address to a P.O. box and contacted every utility company. On April 13th, one day after the eviction deadline, the electricity, water, gas, and internet would all be switched into Jessica and Derek's names. Not shut off, just transferred. Let them manage the bills they had accumulated. I also did something they would never expect. I contacted Derek's business partners. It turned out that the LLC he had registered at my address was operating without proper licensing. I ensured that the relevant authorities received an anonymous tip. Was it petty? Perhaps. But I was 71 years old and done playing nice. I also hired a moving company to pack everything I wanted to keep: Carl's belongings, my photo albums, my mother's china, the furniture that truly mattered. The movers arrived on a Wednesday when everyone was out. That evening, Jessica noticed, "Where's Dad's desk and the bookshelf?" "I'm downsizing," I replied simply. "You can't just take furniture out of the house." "My furniture, my house. I can do exactly that." She stared at me as if she had never seen me before. Perhaps she hadn't. Perhaps she had only ever seen the version of me she wanted: the accommodating mother, the widow who needed managing, the old woman who should be grateful for whatever scraps of dignity they allowed her. April 12th arrived. Their deadline. They hadn't moved a single box. That morning, Derek confronted me in the kitchen. "We're not leaving. Then you'll be removed. You can't evict us. We'll fight this. We'll take you to court. We'll drag this out for months." I poured my coffee with steady hands. "Do what you need to do." But I knew something he didn't. The closing was in 3 days. On April 15th at 10 a.m., I would sign the final papers. James Chen would take possession. The house would no longer be mine, and therefore no longer available for them to occupy. They went to work that morning, confident they had called my bluff. Brandon and Kylie went to school. The house was empty. At 9:30 a.m., I left for Robert's office with 2 suitcases, everything I still needed. Helen drove me, and we didn't speak much. What was there to say? At Robert's office, we reviewed everything one last time. "You understand what's going to happen?" he asked. "I understand." "You're sure?" "Last chance to change your mind." I thought about Jessica's sneer, Derek's condescension, and the manner in which they had erased me from my own life, one small theft at a time. Before I continue with what transpired next, I would like to ask you something. If this story resonates with you, if you understand the feeling of becoming invisible in your own life, please hit that subscribe button. I need to know there are others out there who understand and refuse to allow themselves to be erased. Thank you. Now let me share what happened when they returned home. The closing on April 15th took 45 minutes. I signed my name 23 times. I counted. Each signature felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. James Chen shook my hand. "The property is mine as of this moment. My team will be there at 3 p.m. to change the locks and post the notice of ownership transfer. Security has already been arranged. Anyone who shows up will be instructed to contact my attorney." He paused, looking at me. "Mrs. Brennan, I know this wasn't easy. For what it's worth, you did the right thing." I wasn't certain I had done the right thing, but I had done what was necessary. Robert arranged everything else. The utilities had switched to Jessica and Derek's names that morning. They would receive notifications on their phones, likely around lunchtime. The sheriff's department had been notified of the situation and agreed to send a deputy to maintain peace when the new owners took possession. I enjoyed lunch with Robert and Martha at a quiet restaurant downtown, ordering shrimp and grits, Carl's favorite, but barely tasting them. At 2:45 p.m., my phone began to ring. Jessica. I did not answer. It rang repeatedly. Then Derek called. Then Jessica again. Finally, a text from Jessica. Mom, where are you? The power company says we're responsible for the account now, and Derek's credit card isn't working. Call me. I turned off my phone. At 3:30, Robert's phone rang. His expression remained neutral as he listened. I see. Yes. No. She's aware. Yes, that's correct. No, there's no mistake. He paused. Sir, I'd suggest you speak to your attorney. This is a civil matter. My client has broken no laws. He hung up. Derek? I inquired. Very angry, Derek. They're at the house. The locks have been changed. A security guard is present. James Chen's attorney is there with the paperwork, and Derek is threatening to call the police. The attorney suggested he do precisely that, as they would explain how property ownership functions. I envisioned them standing on the front porch, my front porch, except it was no longer mine. It belonged to no one. It had never belonged to them. My phone buzzed, and I turned it back on. A voicemail from Jessica. I played it on speaker. Mom, what the hell is happening? Some Chinese guy says he owns the house now. He has paperwork indicating you sold it. This is insane. Where are you? Call me back right now. Then I heard Derek's voice in the background. Jesus Christ. She actually sold the house. She sold the house out from under us. The voicemail ended. Martha reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're okay. Was I? I had just disrupted my daughter's life. I had made my grandchildren technically homeless. I had burned bridges that could never be rebuilt. Yet, I had also reclaimed my power. I had ceased being a victim in my own narrative. I'm okay, I replied. My phone rang again. This time it was Sarah, my youngest. I answered. Mom, oh my God, are you all right? Jessica just called me screaming about you selling the house. What's going on? It's a long story, honey. Are you safe? Where are you? I'm safe. I'm with Robert Morrison and his wife. The lawyer? Mom, what happened? I recounted everything. Unlike Jessica, she listened without interruption. After I finished, she was silent for a moment. Holy Mom? Sarah, no, I mean it. Holy, you actually did it. She laughed, a sound that was part shock, part admiration. Jessica is losing her mind. She called me demanding I talk sense into you. She wants me to help them sue you. And what did you say? I told her she got exactly what she deserved. Sarah took a sip of wine. She wanted me to tell you that you ruined their lives. And what did you say? I said she ruined her own life by taking you for granted. Sarah looked at me. She hung up on me again. We're not speaking. I'm sorry, honey. Don't be. She needs to understand that actions have consequences. She's 50 years old, Mom. If she hasn't figured that out by now, that's on her. Michael called a few weeks later. I wanted to let you know I'm coming to Charleston for work next month. Can I see your new place? Of course. And Mom, I ran into one of Jessica's friends at the grocery store. Apparently, the story's gotten around. My stomach tightened. What are they saying? Honestly, most people think it's hilarious. There's some gossip about what terrible house guests they were, how they took advantage. Jessica's not receiving much sympathy. She's still my daughter, I remarked. I know, but maybe she needed this wake-up call. Maybe she did, or perhaps we are both just broken now in different ways. The children, Brandon and Kylie, that was more difficult. They had not asked to be caught in the middle. I sent them cards with money for their birthdays, but I did not hear back. Jessica had likely poisoned them against me, or perhaps they were merely being teenagers, and I was just another adult who had disappointed them. Regardless, it hurt. Yet here's what I learned. In those initial months in my new home, I could endure the hurt. I could survive the guilt, the loss, and the knowledge that I had dismantled my family to save myself. Because the alternative, continuing to shrink, to disappear one small indignity at a time, would have ultimately killed me. Not swiftly, but gradually, like poison coursing through my veins. I chose life, my life, on my own terms. Was it selfish? Probably. Was it necessary? Absolutely. It has now been 8 months since I sold the house. 8 months since I stood on the front porch for the last time and walked away from 43 years of memories. 8 months since I chose myself. Helen visits every Tuesday. We have lunch on my balcony and catch up on neighborhood gossip. She tells me about the construction where my house used to be, a mixed-use development with shops on the ground floor and apartments above. She says it is progressing nicely. I do not inquire about Jessica. Helen does not offer. Sarah visits once a month, often bringing her husband and their 2 children, my other grandchildren, the ones who still communicate with me. We prepare dinner together, and they ask if they can spend the night in the guest room. It may not be the large house with the yard, but it is sufficient. Michael has visited twice. The last time, we sat on the balcony with bourbon, Carl's favorite, and he said, "I'm proud of you, Mom. I realize that may sound strange given everything, but I am. Thank you, honey. Jessica will eventually come around, or she won't, but you did what you had to do. I'm not sure Jessica will come around. I'm not certain I need her to." That may sound harsh, even to my own ears, but it is true. I spent 71 years prioritizing everyone else: my parents, my husband, my children. I spent a lifetime diminishing myself to accommodate others' needs, wants, and conveniences. This is the first time in my life I have chosen myself. Last week, I joined the book club in my building. We are reading mysteries, which I enjoy. I signed up for a water aerobics class that meets 3 mornings a week. I am learning to paint at the community center, something I have always wanted to try but never had the time for. I am building a life, not the life I envisioned when Carl and I purchased that house in 1982, nor the life I imagined while raising 3 children and dreaming of grandchildren and family holidays, but a life nonetheless. Is it lonely at times? Yes. Do I wish things had unfolded differently? Certainly, but I do not regret my actions, not for a moment. I am Patricia Brennan, 71 years old. I am a widow, a mother, a grandmother, and a woman who has finally learned that one cannot set oneself on fire to keep others warm. The house on Palmetto Street is now gone, replaced by something new and modern that serves a purpose I will never witness. But I remain here. I am still standing. I awaken every morning in a home that belongs to me, where no one tells me I'm lucky to sleep, where no one treats me as if I am in the way. I sold the house, terminated the leases, redirected the bills, locked them out, and compelled them to face the consequences of their choices. And you know what? I would do it again in a heartbeat, because the only person who can save you is yourself. Sometimes saving yourself requires burning everything down and starting anew. Sometimes the only way to reclaim your life is to take it back deed by deed, signature by signature, lock by lock. And I did. Please subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you in the next video with love and respect.